Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Lofty Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Tanisha Coffey, and as always, I am bringing you the very best tips, tools, and resources for small business owners. Now, if you haven't done so already, I don't know what you're waiting for, but be sure to go ahead and to subscribe and to like this podcast, okay? Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, go ahead and do that now so you don't miss any of the other episodes that are coming up. All right, so today on the show, I have Bridging the Gap mentor, Miss Jessica Aniela, with me today. She has an amazing journey into entrepreneurship and a very unique take on what it really takes to be a successful entrepreneur. So I want to go ahead and invite her to join me today. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Hello, Tanisha. So thankful that you brought me on your podcast. I feel so amazing. It's always amazing to be here and just get to know your audience and your followers. I just love. Thank you so much for having me a part of your podcast. It'd be great.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for those of you who kind of track me, you know I love, especially speaking with women entrepreneurs, and it's always what gets me, what draws me to them is there's something about their story or some insight that I've discovered about them in conversation. And so, I promise you today we're going to bring that out. But I do want to start out. Let's talk about your journey into entrepreneurship because you actually, spent several years working in corporate and now have, shifted. So I want to know what was that journey like switching over from, the traditional 9 to 5 to becoming an entrepreneur, a small business owner?
I really never had a traditional 9 to 5. I always was in sales. So in sales, you're creating your own company in a company itself. So it's you're having your territory is like your account management is like your own little company. And I never really worked in the office 9 to 5. So I can never. I did try that in my early 20s working at a bank, and that was very short lived. I was like, I can't do this. So that's why I got into sales. I got into sales, actually car sales, believe it or not. I don't think I told you that. For like 2 years, and that was like, oh my god, that was hardcore training. Because you're like, I was the only woman, in a bunch of men, and it was very sort of uncomfortable for them, not for me, and
Right.
it's kind of
So
funny.
how'd you break into the boys club? How'd you, kind of walk in there with the confidence? Because a lot of women would say, walking into an environment that is male dominated, even though they know their worth, they know what they can do, it still would be intimidating. But it sounds like you walked in there, like, kick the door open. Hey, fellas, I'm here. You ready? Let's
Yeah.
go. So, like, what gave you the confidence to just be ready to do that?
It's just I knew that I'm a very personable person. I just love getting to know people. I just love talking to. I would always talk to people I didn't know, just to get to know their story. I always ask, either a couple, how did they meet? What was their journey to becoming like a union? And I always love to learn about a person's journey becoming successful. Are they
Mhm.
doing something that they feel purposeful about, or calling, like an inner calling, or is it something that this business is just getting you from A to Z and just making a living with it?
Right.
And I was always lying to people that really were doing a business as a purpose. So when I went into, like, when I was in car sales, I would talk to all these potential customers that come in and build those long term, referrals. And I was only there for a very short time, for a couple of years, just to get my feet wet into sales, and it was very good. But they were very, they looked at me like all the men there, was like, oh my god, who is she? And some were intimidated. Some were intimidated by me, thought me as a threat.
Mhm.
And you know what? And that's not my problem. So that was my attitude. And either you like me, and I don't care if you don't like me, type of thing.
All right.
Um, yeah,
Wait, so I have to highlight that. So, for those of you who are out there, right? Because a lot of times we have, especially as women, have what's called imposter syndrome, right? You get out there, you know you can do something, because Do you feel you're qualified? You wouldn't try to do it if you didn't think you could do it. But then you get out there in the real world and you start to doubt yourself, right? But if you're listening to Jessica, she was like, even in this environment, I was like, I don't care. I got this. You know, you can be intimidated by me. You can think what you want, but I'm here. I know what I can do. And I'm about to show you. And if you don't like it, if you doubt me, that's on you. That's your mistake. So I think that's a huge takeaway for, you know, some of the people who are listening, you know, today. Okay, so after the car sales, right? Because even though that wasn't a, you know, sales, obviously, yes, you do have more flexibility and there's different requirements, the hours flex, but at the end of the day, you still were answering to somebody, you know, still had certain times you had to be there and there were certain expectations on production and all of that kind of thing. So what was next in that journey for you? What you said you moved to another type of sales position.
Yes, I said, you know what, this is not really professional sales. You know, especially you know, the environment I was surrounded by, you know, these different men and things like that, and didn't have the, you know, I come from a pure intention. You know what I mean? I'm here to serve. I'm here to, you know, take advantage of someone, and so I started looking, and at the time, you know, I was looking in the paper. I guess I'm like dating myself. I was in my late 20s, maybe like, no, like my late, like probably 24, 25, something like that. And I did go to college for a few years, but then I stopped. You know what? I'm like, you know, I wasn't too sure exactly what I wanted to do. But when I did the sales, I said, okay, I know what I'm really good at. And now let me get a corporate job. So I wanted to get a corporate job because, you know what? I said, God, I believe in God. And I said, God, I want to travel the world. I want to have a position that will allow me to travel the world. And first, I actually interviewed for airlines and American Airlines. I went out to they flew me first class, which is amazing. I did have a Sunday. And I was like, oh, you know, they always give you like these, you know, like I ever heard like, you know, when you go first class, like you can get a Sunday. And I did. So I went to Dallas, interviewed for you know, you had to interview and you had to like speak in front of many people on a stadium. And I was on a stage and I was in my early 20s. So I was like deathly afraid. And they weighed you at that time. They weighed you. Anyways,
Yeah.
I did pass the weight thing, but I didn't pass where you would stand up and speak in front of a stadium. Yes, this public speaking, I had a fear of, especially in front of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I didn't get the job. Oh well. So what's the next step? And that's when I went into corporate. I applied for this corporate job at Pitney Bowes. It was a sales rep job, and it was selling office equipment, you know, like copiers and things like that. They had a copier division, but they're a mailing company. So, and it took me like, I went through like 5 different managers. They kind of put me through like a committee of managers. And I went from one to one to actually overcome objections, you know, follow up. They were just testing me and see how I followed. And I followed up, was very consistent and persistent. So, and I came to the last interview of this gentleman named John Yerganian, who was a branch manager. And he's like, you know what, Jess, you're like so persistent. I know you want this job. I know you didn't, because they required you to have a degree. And I had 2 years. I know you want to go back to school and get your degree. As long as you're doing that, you know what, you're amazing. I can't believe, I'm going to tell your story to all the new salespeople that come on board because you aced this interview. And he hired me, and I actually did go back to school. They paid for everything, and it was the most amazing company I ever worked for because they were about people, investing in people first. And I learned that from the get-go. My first manager was Scott McGregor, which I am still in contact with, and that was back in 1996. My first year, I did amazing. They call it like Rookie of the Year. I made what they call pacemaker, and I won a trip to Cancun, Mexico, and I got to bring somebody, so I brought my mom. So and consistently. So you know what? Once you make one trip, you have to make them all. And that's what I did. I was like, you know what? I gotta go on another trip. This was amazing. We stayed at Ritz Carlton. We were like, if you, it was like top level everything and food. They gave you money to spend. They gave you gifts. I'm like, oh, you sure like royalty? And literally, and I was like, oh my god, I got to do this every single year. I got to do this,
So,
and that's what I
so
did.
I, so I can see how that would be very appealing, so you're doing the sales, you're getting to, be out there, not cooped up in an office. You're a rock star at it, right? So then you fast forward years
So,
later, and then something says, I'm over this kind of working for other people thing. So what
yeah,
was it that made you want to kind of switch over and start your entrepreneurship journey?
sure. I felt like empty. I felt like I was making a lot of money. In 10 years of Pitney Bowes, I was making a lot of money. I was rep of the year, and had all these, I won all the awards, and I got bonuses and all kinds of stuff. But you know what? It wasn't rewarding. I wasn't making a direct impact on someone's life, and that was something that I really wanted. And that's when I left to go into medical sales. So when I went to medical sales, I thought I was going to make an impact. I thought I was going to make an impact of a patient, and taking care of a patient. I didn't have medical background, but they saw my sales track record and they're like, oh my god. So and I went against a lot of medical salespeople, people that've been in medical sales, and they, I had to go through a lot of interviews, and then it was hard to get into because it's very lucrative. So once I got into a medical company, it wasn't like I thought. It wasn't making an impact to somebody. Yes, in a roundabout way, you are helping people selling medical devices to hospitals, doctors, and nurses, but it wasn't rewarding. It was all about the bottom line again. And I stayed there for 4 years, and then went to another company, and that was the last straw. The last company was the straw that broke the camel's back. Seriously.
And what
Um,
was it? What was it there that was the thing that said done?
it was the manager. It was the company. They were trying to brainwash me to become one of them, and I'm like, and probably in telling me to do something against my own integrity. And
Ah, yeah.
when they did that, I was done. It was like God saying, you know what, your last job you should have left, right?
Hmm.
But you know what, this is like, when things happen over and over again, it's telling you like two signs, you should be done. You got to leave and start doing your purpose. And
Right.
during that 2013, I felt like inner calling. I felt I heard my name called. I'm like, Jessica, you got to wake up. Jessica, you got to wake up. It's time for you to wake up and start doing your purpose. And that was my dream of really, since I was a little girl, to really start doing my purpose. I remember when I was 4 or 5 years old, I would sell these painted rocks. I would paint rocks and sell them door to door. And then I would teach, about, went to CCD school. I learned a lot of teachings of Jesus, and I would teach this across the street to all my little neighbors and my size. And, I'm very passionate about that. And that stood in my mind my whole life. But I kind
Hmm.
of forget about it for a little while until I started doing this journey.
Right.
And and I said, you know what? I didn't have the mindset to leave corporate. And I said, you know what? I got to hire a mentor. I don't have the mindset. I've been doing this too long, and I just couldn't get out of my own way. And
So
that
it's the
was
combination of them definitely pushing you, in a direction to think and perhaps behave in a way that you're like, this is not who I am. And then the
exactly
integrity aspect. And I understand that aspect very well. Um, my husband was in a sales position at one point in time, and they wanted him to say some things to people on the phone that he knew were not the right thing to do, or to push for them to go ahead and buy, when in part of the questioning that he was trained to do, you find out certain details and certain information about people. And his higher ups wanted him to go ahead and push despite knowing some of the details to the other information that he had. And he's like, that's not right. You don't, if somebody's telling you XYZ, you don't then turn around and use that against them for something that will likely cause harm. It's one thing, the sales in general, yes, you gather information and you use that to help you make a sale. But there is a line, there's a line as a salesperson that you say, you know what, I'm not crossing that line. I don't want this sale enough to know that me convincing them to make that sale, because maybe you're that good, you can make, somebody believe that sand is water, right? You're that good. But using that power for, wrong is not okay. And he did the same thing. He had to walk away from the position. And honestly, he walked away from that position in what was quite literally probably one of the worst times in our lives for him to be walking away from a job. But
Wow.
so I'm curious to know, let's open it up and tell people about the type of business that you did end up deciding to open up. Tell us a little bit about, just maybe in 2 or 3 sentences, kind of like what it is that you're currently doing. And then I want to really get to one of your philosophies on how you're doing your business.
Sure. Just a little bit along my journey, I got certified as an NLP master, which is neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, EFT, and I'm also Reiki master and teacher. So during that time where I was going through discovery phase and left Connecticut to move to Florida, and that's where did a lot of self-discovery. What is my purpose and how can I serve other people? I ask a lot of questions, and then I had to discover what was holding me back from really creating my business, because I got the certifications, but I didn't start right away because I felt so heavy, and I didn't understand what that was really, and until I understood what it was, I went on this journey, and I started working with people. I work with people in their relationships, and then I really enjoy business, and plus I have a business background, international business degree, plus 17 years of award-winning corporate sales experience. I can really serve people on a really high level with entrepreneurs, and I started working with really purpose-driven entrepreneurs that want to scale their business, but and they find themselves spinning their wheels and not attracting the right clients, because that was me. I wasn't attracting the right people because I had to discover why that happened, and we can talk about that after when I show you my method. And yeah, so I help people, that invest sometimes when entrepreneurs, they like the shiny object syndrome, and they'll have these people that do strategy and marketing and all that. Yeah, I got to invest in strategies. Yeah, I got to invest in marketing. It's going to really get me $30,000 a month. It's going to get me here, there, and everywhere. And I'm going to get a brand new car. I'm going to get this house. I'm going to invest. They show you all this shiny stuff that you're going to get, but they don't really tell you or show you how to really do it. You can do this marketing stuff and webinars and all this strategy, but what happens if you don't have the belief structure as a solid foundation? That's the problem. People put the cart before the horse. So the thing is, how do you really invest in yourself first when you want to start a company? And I work with people that, been in business a few years. Some people just started, usually within a few years, they feel like, okay, I want to scale, and I'm not attracting the right clients to scale. And one client I was working in Florida, he's a film editor, and we connected online, how we connected, and he's like, I don't know, I'm stuck. He was working for CNN for 20 years. He did a lot of film editing for them. He did movies. He worked for this other company called Alchemy X. But the thing is, he was still working with corporate when he left to start his own business. He's like, I really want to do documentary work and I'm really passionate about it. But where are the clients? I'm networking. I'm doing all these things, strategies, investing in strategy and marketing and all this stuff. But I'm not getting my clients. I'm not getting the documentary. I'm like, what do I do? Do I restart my business? How do I freaking move forward? I'm stuck. I'm pulling out my hair. And whatever he has left, he's just like, it's like, what do I do, Jess? I said, okay, what do you feel that's holding you back? Like, what do you feel? Because I think it's my mindset. I know for sure. But okay, then I started actually with my method. The thing is,
Okay. So wait. So let's pause because I want you to be able to tell this story, but I definitely want you to kind of break down this method because in a conversation we had before, um, I will say it literally struck me. That's my little sir, if you guys can hear that in the background.
you,
That was one of the things that struck me. So I want you to go ahead and reveal these three. It was the three brains, right? The three brains. Okay, guys, remember that three brains. You got three brains. You might not have thought it, but you do. So go ahead and break down the three brains for me, please.
well, I have what's called the trifecta system, and it creates a trifecta experience. It's a movement, and this movement is my passion because it's what I really believe in. Not only having a successful business, but you want to have successful relationships, and you want also to have a successful and really good health. You want really, your health is like really your wealth, because if you don't feel good, how are you going to really do your business and really have longevity in your business? So the thing is, I had with my client, we went through this method. Is called the I call it the quantum leap method to success. So in this method, we discover in the subconscious mind. So you have your mind, right? In the subconscious mind, you have all the programming from your past and things that that are affecting your now and in your future, right? And then you have your heart brain, which has been hurt, right, over and over again, maybe since childhood, right? And it's closed off, unconsciously closed. You think it's open, but it's not. All right. And the thing is, until you're aware of it, and like, oh my God, then you become aware, and then you start to open up. But then the gut holds a lot of emotion. It holds a lot of memory, and especially in your fascia system too, as well. So the thing is, most people are not connected through the heart. They have a disconnect. It's like from the brain to the heart, there's like, and where the disconnect comes in is in their voice. He wasn't expressing himself. He wasn't being transparent. He wasn't being himself. You have you're one person in your business, and then you're another person at home, right? The relationship part was not in alignment of his business. So most people, their relationships and their personal life is affecting their business. It's not the other way around. It's not their business affecting their personal life. It's the relationships and things that they do outside business is affecting their success of their business, longevity of their business, and his relationships with his wife was affecting his business because it wasn't being transparent. There was a lot of when we started working together, I go really deep, discovering like, okay, when did it start that you're not being transparent with your partner, right? And it started way back in childhood with his dad. He had some old stories with his dad and with his siblings of them. He was like, they wished he wasn't born because yeah, he carried a lot of guilt and shame since he was a little baby, and it was unconscious. And the thing is, and he would never express himself how hurt he was, when he got older, and he kept that really suppressed in his body. So, and the thing is, when you feel not good enough, and you felt that way through your siblings and your parents, you carry that through your life until you until you become aware of it, that you are carrying it, because most people are unaware. And he's like, oh my God, when we did my method, we go through like a relaxation. It's like a meditation. And I speak to the subconscious mind. And when I asked the subconscious mind when did this first start, the subconscious mind knows everything, your past, your present, and your future. So it'll know the first image that will come to your mind is the root cause. And that's when and most of my clients, they can remember even in the mother's womb. And it could go even back then. And sometimes it goes back mostly from familial stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. So these have been passed down from his dad to him. And now it stops with him because he's not repeating the cycle. So the thing is, where the disconnect is with his mind and his heart and his gut. It was not connected. So the thing is, when we created the connection, he became aware of all the root causes from his belief system of feeling not good enough, having shame and guilt and fear of expressing himself, because that's what he was taught as a child. And now he can see, now as an adult, he can look back and see, like, I'm not that person anymore, because I have a business, I have a amazing relationship that's, a little in trouble because I'm not expressing myself, right? But that once he started practicing expressing himself, and he was undercharging on the top of that. He had 20 years experience in undercharging. And when he realized his worth, he 5x'd his income and transformed his relationships and lost weight all at the same time.
So for him, in that instance, it was not necessarily that the strategies he had weren't going to be effective for him or that he had been told wrong. It was just that he had not yet developed the voice to speak what he needed to make those things successful. So I would imagine I have a background in production. And so what I imagine is some of the people that he was going after as so-called clients really were not the right clients for a documentary. Perhaps they were clients for other types of video projects, but they weren't right for him and where he wanted to take his business. And so there was that disconnect. That's why things weren't working.
Well, he wasn't aligned to the right clients because of the subconscious programming was still there. And he still had attachments to it. That's the problem. Emotional attachments that were stuck in the body. That emotional attachment, meaning of feeling not good enough, is a very low frequency. That's what's going to attract. And that's why he was repeating like these things in his relationship, in his business. And he wasn't attracting the right people because he was not the right person. He didn't adopt a new version of himself. And when you realize that you're still holding on to feeling, not having the confidence, having fear of speaking how you feel, that affects every part of your life. And once he adopted that, then he was able to open new doors of opportunity. After one session, he attracted 5 new clients that were all documentary. He was no longer attracting the corporate stuff.
So let's go into this a little bit, obviously without revealing all of your methodologies, but for people who are listening who are saying, that's me, I feel like the person who I currently am and the person who I know I need to be in order to have the success that I see for myself, I I'm not quite there. So before obviously they, can come to you, to get help with that. But, what things could you give them? Maybe 3 tips could you give them right now to say, look, this is where you start. This is at least the foundation of where you start to begin to put yourself on that journey. What would those 3 things be?
Okay, like ask yourself, what is my life goal? What is my immediate goal, like 3 months, my 3-month goal or 6-month goal? Then you can ask yourself, what are the emotions and thoughts and beliefs that I have about this goal, right? You can ask yourself this question: what are my emotions? What are my thoughts about the goal? And like, close your eyes, and do some reflection work and ask, and take a little step back from your business and be an observer, and ask yourself these questions. And then I call it the leap method. So it's actually creating a bridge. So and the third one is like, so it's like, what are your emotions is the E, and the A is asking questions. So you're asking, okay, what are my thoughts? Okay, when did I feel this last? Like, say for example, he felt not good enough. When was the last time he felt that way? Oh, it was in corporate where he got passed over promotion. Okay, how about before that? What's the next memory that you have? I remember, like, with my siblings, the way they treated me. Even in school, I got bullied, by kids. They told me I was overweight. They made me feel bad about myself. And then when I was fit, I still was not feeling good about myself, and I still was bullied. And even before that, he went back even like when he was born 1, 2 years old, that he was told that they wished he wasn't alive, because his dad was wealthy before he was born, and it wasn't his fault that it happened. They saw it, that their perception, little kids, they don't see what the real truth is. They see the way they see it through their eyes. They just felt like, okay, after he was born, we didn't have money and we didn't travel, we didn't go on trips, and we didn't have all these, these toys and whatever it is that they got before. The reality was, his dad had a business, which was a restaurant business. Then they put a highway in. So when they put the highway in, it actually it was the time that he was born. So it actually detoured all the clients that they had, the customers. So his business kind of declined, and so did their lifestyle. So they thought it was because of him, but it really was because of. And then he carried that story his whole life, unconsciously. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I still hold emotion from that story. And that
Right.
was deep.
Because I would think as an adult, I mean, as a child, you believe it if your parents say you're the reason, blah, blah, blah. But then as an adult looking back, you can logically say, there's there's no way a kid doesn't make you, poor or broke. That's your choice. You chose to bring me here, kind of thing. But the emotion behind it
Mm-hmm.
is what's hard to let go. I find that, like emotion and logic, you can think through something logically and you can know and you understand, but that doesn't stop you from feeling a certain way about it. Even though you understand it, it doesn't change. And so to be able to work through um letting go. So what's the secret to what's to letting go? Like how does one do that
Forget,
when you come to that realization, but then how do you actually say I am releasing it, and it's not just words, it literally is that emotional release.
release. It's a purge. It's you're purging. It's a forgiveness. He had to forgive himself for carrying this his whole life. He had to forgive, like, his siblings, his dad, his parent, his mother, and he had to do forgiveness. That was just one story. There was many stories, but that was one really huge story that he kept with him his whole life, and he had a lot of emotion that was still attached to those stories. And now he sees himself as a different person. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe that now I see all these events that happened that affirmed that initial event. When that happened, all the events after that event affirmed my belief that I was not good enough, that I'm guilty. I feel it's shame. I feel like, I'm blaming myself for these things. And that carried through every choice he made. He made choices based on his old beliefs. And when he was aware of that, now he's like, you know what? I'm not that person anymore. I am a very confident man. I have an amazing family. I have a beautiful wife, and now I have a I see myself as different. I see myself as empowered. I see myself, I have tremendous value. I was like top editor at this company for 20 years. I was very, very successful. And they, the way they treated me, like, they paid me, maybe not treated, but the way they paid me, I was really well, really got paid well for what I did. And I was respected by the industry. And you know what? Like, why am I charging so little?
Mm-hmm.
And like, you realize, like, it was really mind blowing for him. Like, that was
Right.
his huge aha moment. Like, then we did a lot of different things. And then so ask yourself. So that's the third thing, is ask yourself and keep on going back to get to the root cause. And each time you go back, you may have some emotions that are attached to these stories that will create space for what you do want. And when you're going through this process, you can get great ideas, because once you kind of hit like a spring, like, what, there's an underground spring and springs,
Yes.
if you
Yes.
touch like a spring, and you kind of hit a place where you feel like all this bubbling of
Ex-
emotion comes up. It's like a waterfall.
Explodes.
It's like
Yeah.
coming up through the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are your emotions, because you are the ocean. And then when you have this emotion that's coming up and bubbling up, then that is like a place where you can get amazing ideas. And that's a place where new doors of opportunity start opening for you.
Amazing.
And this is when you could practice. This is something that you can practice if you feel stuck with something, if you haven't achieved your goal yet. These are the questions that you can ask yourself. When did you can write down the emotions that you're feeling when you think of this goal, any thoughts and feelings that are coming up. And then you ask yourself questions like, when did I feel this way last? And then keep on
Mm-hmm.
going back and get to the root.
Right.
And it's a practice.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Guys, she's giving you these tips. Jessica's giving you these tips on how you can begin to kind of tap into, a little bit and understanding where your gap may be, right? But let's be real. She mentioned it earlier that, for her, making that transition from working, in a not traditional, but in a corporate type position, she had to get to a place where she knew she didn't want it anymore. That was her first step. She knew there was a change that she wanted. But she also mentioned that the way she was able to make that change was not on her own. She needed that mentor, that outside person, that person who was not so close to you, because sometimes the people closest to you, they love you and they want to care for you and they want the best for you, but sometimes they're the hardest people to open up to, because you may not want to hurt them, or you may not want them to know certain things, not because they won't accept you, but because maybe you're not ready for them to know those things, because you're just not sure about them yourself. And
Well,
so I was just saying, the tips that Jessica's giving you, they're great. They're a great start. But if you are a business owner, and if you are at that place where you're at that crossroads, you want change, you've been trying to make that change, but you feel stuck. Yes, try some of the exercises that she's telling you, but that's only going to get you so far. And so, Jessica, I would like for you to let the audience know, how can they connect with you to help them to bridge the gap, to find where their gap is, and to make that leap.
sure. You can reach me on LinkedIn under Jessica Aniela Colbis. And they also can reach me by my email at hello@jessicaaniela.com. And they can reach me either way. And I offer, since you're so sweet and nice for having me on your podcast, I offer a complimentary consultation, and where I will be able to uncover a lot of the times when I meet with somebody, they get new clients. So um, because we discover what's holding them back, and just in one session, one conversation. And it happened over and over again when I meet with people. So if you want a breakthrough, definitely, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to set up an appointment with you and have a conversation.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time out to sit with me, and just kind of share and give some insight. So thank you so much. For those of you who have been listening or watching this, I know that you know somebody who could benefit from this. So sharing is caring. So be sure to go ahead and share this with somebody today. All right. You can share it on social media. You can share it privately. You can text it, however you choose to do. There is somebody in your circle, whether you know it or not, who needs to hear this message. So go ahead and share. And then, as always, be sure to come back again and learn some more how you can continue to improve your business. All right, guys, I'm Tanisha Coffey. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.